Hello to everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Family Harmony. Today I'd like to discuss the role of a man and the role of a woman in a marriage, understanding each other, and focusing on what creates the number one problem and how to resolve it. So, first of all, when you go to look for a husband or you go to look for a wife, what are you looking for? Are you supposed to look for somebody who is very similar to you? Or are you supposed to look for somebody who, as everybody says, opposites attract? So the Holy Torah tells us, the Sforno says that a job of a man and a job of a woman is to find a soulmate that is as similar to you as possible. You're supposed to find somebody that you feel very comfortable being around, because you're naturally going to be able to love that someone because of the tendencies, because of the similarities. The natural love and likings is going to be more bonding. Now, don't get me wrong, it is true that opposites attract. Why is it that opposites attract? Because really, the Zohar writes that a husband and a wife are made of one soul. And Hashem decided to separate husband and wife and to make two souls, and each soul is yearning for his other half. Each soul is yearning to meet up with the other half that is missing. So opposites do attract. But our job is to try to find a person that will fit our personality and our needs to the best of our ability. Now, a very important thing to keep in mind, more important than how similar your husband or how similar your wife is to you, is how well prepared you are for a marriage. Because if a person doesn't know how to handle a man, or a person doesn't know how to handle a woman, and how to talk to them, and how to understand their language, where they're coming from, what they're thinking, then it doesn't matter how similar they are. At the end of the day, a man is different than a woman in many, many ways. And I'd like to touch upon that a little bit. A woman, I mentioned in the past, in the previous episode, a woman likes to speak a lot. Did you ever think about that? I'm talking to the men, or even to the women. Did you ever think about why is it that you feel the need to talk and talk and talk? While a man has no desire in talking, and a man wants to just be left alone, come home from a hard day of work and just rest. So the answer is, the purpose of a marriage is to bond. The reason for why Hashem made a man marry a woman and live together is in order to make it that a man and a woman build a relationship and connect to each other. What's the best way to bond? The best way to bond is through talking. What do people say when they get into a fight? I'm not talking to him anymore. Why stop talking to him? Why don't you say, I don't play with him anymore. I don't go to work with him anymore. I'm not talking to him anymore. That's the number one thing that breaks up a relationship or builds a relationship. Talking, conversing. So a woman has a need to talk because God created a woman to build a relationship, to build a partnership. A woman's yearning and desire is to feel another man in her life. A man is connected to her in her life. A human being is connected to her in her life. Man was built very different than that. A man doesn't understand why a woman wants to talk so much, because a man was built to just be a loner. A man wants to be alone. Leave me alone. I did my thing today. I had a hard day at work. I just want to rest. He doesn't have patience for nonsense. He wants to talk only when there is a need to talk. If there's no need to talk, there's no need to give the information. Why are we talking? Why are we wasting our breaths? So a man is built differently than a woman. A man, so to speak, God made a man not really built for a relationship. And a woman was built for a relationship, to build a bond. So a man doesn't understand. Why is she so nosy? Why is she asking about what I said and how I said it and what my mother said, what I should have said, I couldn't have said? Why is she so nosy? The answer is she's not nosy. A woman has a need to build a relationship with her husband. And the way to build a relationship with her husband is through talking. So sometimes a man feels that she's blaming me. She's blaming me for doing this, and she's blaming me for not doing this. A woman is not looking to blame you. The wife in your life is looking to have a conversation with you and make you feel responsible for her and responsible for her needs. Just like a child. When a child runs in the street and he falls down and he hurts himself, he comes home crying to mommy with his knees all busted, and he grabs onto his mommy's shirt and puts his face on her, and he cries on her, and sometimes he even hits her while he's crying on her. Why is he hitting her? He's not hitting her because he's upset at his mommy. She didn't do anything wrong. He is hitting her because he's telling her, Mommy, you're responsible for me. I'm your responsibility. And he knows it and he feels it. It's the same thing with a woman. A woman feels that her husband he has a responsibility in this marriage. Her husband is the one who's responsible to make sure that all her needs, all her emotions are met. So therefore, she wants a listening ear. She wants a husband to listen. And for a man, it's a very, very difficult thing to do, to just listen and listen. So if a woman would understand that a man is built differently than her, she will calm down a little bit on her needs and her desires to get him to listen. And if a man will understand that a woman is built different than him, she is built for partnership, she is built for a relationship, then he will increase his desires to listen to her and think more about how can I fulfill my wife's needs to talk and to care about what she's talking about and to be interested in the details that she's mentioning. I think that's a very, very fundamental point, fundamental focus that a husband and a wife should have on trying to figure out how I could fulfill the needs of my wife to build a relationship. How can I fulfill the needs of my husband to be left alone? I'll give a simple example. When a husband comes home tired from work, he's thinking to himself, I'm coming home, I'm going home. If you ask him, why are you going home? He's going to say, I'm going home to rest. I had a long day outside today. I'm going home to rest. He wants to come home. He wants to have a peace of mind that he knows that he could just come to a place and sit down and relax. As soon as he walks into the house, his wife tells him, we got this phone call from this company, and we got this bill from this company, and we have a problem with the kids' school, and we have a problem with the tuition and insurance problem. She hits him with that and hits him with this, and the guy's mind is blowing up. I can't handle it. I just came from a stressful day. I just want to be left alone. So if a wife was wise, what she would do is, as soon as her husband walks into the house, she would make him feel special by hanging up the phone, walking up to the door, greeting him, smiling at him, and telling him, honey, I'm sure you had a long day. I'm sure you need to rest. I'm sure you want to relax a little bit. Come sit down. Let me pour you some soup. Let me pour you some food. And sit down with him and just watch him eat. Let him relax. Once in a while, you throw in a sentence here, you throw a sentence there. Let him relax. After 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes of relaxing, then you start talking to him. Then you start telling him about your day and about your needs and about the issues that you went through and how you need him and his attention to listen to you. But first, give him his time to relax. And the same thing with a woman. A man feels that I'm a volunteer over here, even though he has responsibilities. A man is not built for a relationship. So when he comes home and he wants to relax and the wife throws chores at him, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You're lazy, you're this, you're that. He's thinking to himself, I don't get this. I'm here as a volunteer. And if you look at it, think about it. A man says to his wife all the time, I did the dishes for you. I did your laundry. I did the shopping for you. And the wife is thinking to herself, what do you mean you did the dishes for me? What do you mean you did the laundry for me? She looks in the laundry basket, it's all his clothes. What do you mean you did it for me? The answer is that a man doesn't look at the household's chores as his responsibilities. He looks at it as if he's here to volunteer into this relationship. He's volunteering his time. So he looks at it, the way he looks at this, he looks at it as if I'm doing this for you. But why does it make the wife so upset when the husband says, I'm doing it for you? Because she's built for a relationship. She has a responsibility of building a family, a relationship. She doesn't understand what this guy means when he says, I'm doing this for you. We're doing this for each other. We're building a life together. The Maharal Miprag explains this very beautifully. When the Jewish people were asked if they want to accept the Torah, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. Of course we want the Torah, willingly. Nobody had to force them. So the Maharal Miprag asks, he says, I don't understand. Why did God put a mountain over their head and force them to keep the Torah? Why did God force them to do it if they wanted willingly to do it? And the Maharal answers, the answer is very simple. If you're doing it because you want to do it, you will stop doing it when you don't want to do it. If you're doing it because you have to do it, then you can't stop. You have no choice. You have to do it. So a man has a feeling is, I want to do it because I want to do it. A woman has a feeling, I want to do it because I have to do it. When you ask a wife, why are you going home? She doesn't say I'm going home to relax. She's going home for job number 2, or maybe even job number 3. Responsibilities that she has in the house. She doesn't feel like she's going home to relax. She has a whole different outlook of why she's going home. The husband has a whole different outlook why he's going home. So the outlooks clash. Now, as I said before, marriage is all about bonding. Marriage is all about emotional connection. The neshamas have to connect. The only way for us to accomplish this bonding is if I understand the difficulties that my husband has with understanding me, and my husband understands the difficulties that I have with understanding him. The Maharal Miprag explains that, there's a famous Gemara, famous Chazal, the Matronita asked Rabbi Yossi, God created the world in 6 days. What does he do now? After 6 days of creation, what does God do? So Rabbi Yossi answered that God is mezaveg zivugim, meshadech shiduchim. God makes husbands and wives. He makes couples and marriages. He's a shadchan. So the Maharal Miprag explains, what was she asking? The 6 days of creation? After the 6 days of creation? What was she asking? And what was Rabbi Yossi answering? The Maharal Miprag explains that God, he was telling her that God is creating a constant bonding, constant miracles every day between a husband and a wife. In other words, once God sets up a couple to get married, miracles have to happen every single day in order for them to stay married. Because a husband and a wife are so different than each other. The whole world was created in such a fashion that it's made out of contradictions, out of opposites, out of fire and water, wind and earth. Everything is made out of opposites in order that God should have to constantly keep the world together. And it's the same thing in our marriages. Our marriages are not supposed to work. It's miracles every day that husband and wife are still married. Now, the way we have to make this work, the way we have to figure out how to make this marriage, this bond happen, is by realizing the difficulties of the other. Realizing what's hard for him. Why does he see things the way he sees it? I don't see eye to eye to him. Why do I see things differently? And therefore coming by to middle grounds, trying to come to a point of understanding why he says why he thinks the way he thinks, why he says things the way he says things. Now, the Maharal Miprag is telling us that Hashem has to do miracles to keep husband and wife together. We know Hashem doesn't like to do miracles. Hashem likes to run the world in a natural way. We have to do our part to keep the relationship growing. So what do we have to do? Tip number 1 for tonight would be, a person has to try to see how he can make it that whatever is important to his partner in life is important to him. As I said, opposites attract. That means that your husband likes to be a certain type of a person. Let's say your husband is more clumsy or forgetful, or your husband is a little bit more lazy, and you're more on fire, you have energy. You have opposites. Your husband likes the air conditioner on all the time, you like the air conditioner off, or the other way around. A person has to try to figure out how I can come to middle grounds with my husband. How can I come to understand where he's coming from? So how do you do that? You have to make it that what's important to your husband is important to you. You have to make it that whatever is good in his eyes is good in your eyes. Like the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, make your will be the will of Hashem, in order that Hashem should make His will to be your will. It's the same thing in a relationship. Make it that your husband's will is your will, in order that he should make it that your will is his will. And vice versa. It goes the other way around also. You have to try to figure out what is it that he wants and what is it that he needs. And he has to try to figure out what is it that you want and what is it that you need. Understanding that you guys are opposites. You're much more emotional, he's much more logical, you have a need to create a relationship. He has no need to create a relationship. He will be fine all by himself. By the way, if you notice, women have a much harder time to commit to a marriage. Because women know that marriage is an obligation and responsibility. A husband, yeah, let's get married. It's very much easier for a man to commit to a marriage. As I said before, he looks at himself like he's a volunteer over here. It's a very difficult thing for us to realize the differences between each other. But if we could accomplish seeing eye to eye, seeing what is it that is difficult for you, and I see what is difficult, when you see what's difficult for me, then we'll be able to accomplish family harmony. I bless you all. May Hashem gives you the strength, and Hashem gives you the wisdom to be able to understand your partner better, and to be able to give him what he really needs, and not what you want to give, what he really needs. Have a great day.